The Fox News host Glenn Beck is leaving Fox News and is starting his own network. It is maybe going to be on the internet, I think, instead of TV. I'm not sure, but I hear that it is going to be called GBTV, or Glenn Beck Television, which makes sense, of course. We also know that since his big Restoring Honor rally on the National Mall last summer, Mr. Beck's TV ratings on Fox News have slid. He's lost more than a third of his audience, which may be giving investors in his new internet kingdom something of a shiver. He still does have a giant audience, of course, but it is sliding. And interestingly, so are the ratings of conservative talk radio hosts Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity. They are the number one and number two talkers in conservative talk radio. Their ratings, like Mr. Beck's, have also been sliding. Mr. Limbaugh's are down by 33% from last year. Mr. Hannity's are off by 28% from the fall. And I don't say this as a point of competition. I don't mean that in terms of, vis-a-vis MSNBC, vis-a-vis other networks. I don't mean that in terms of liberals versus conservative and talk radio. I just mean that in terms of its political implications. Those numbers about the ratings slipping on the right, those are the kinds of things that I'm sure give liberals a little frisson of glee. But honestly, to keep it in perspective, that sort of thing probably does not worry these hosts very much. It probably doesn't worry conservatives all that much, broadly speaking. Even with a 33% ratings drop, Mr. Limbaugh still has really giant ratings. He has had giant ratings since I was a kid. He has remade the radio universe in the image of his success. Still, to this day, a quarter century after Mr. Limbaugh started his program, almost all of talk radio and all of right-wing talk radio, which is still almost all there is, and almost all of conservative TV now, it's all pretty directly derivative from one really part of Rush Limbaugh's formula for talking to conservatives and for getting really big ratings out of a conservative audience. The formula for conservative media is Rush Limbaugh's formula. It is Rush Limbaugh. And I really think this formula, this special Rushnicosity, is an underappreciated ingredient in his success and in the success of conservative media more broadly. I also think it explains why the big, supposedly confusing thing in presidential politics right now, the only campaign story that anyone wants to talk about today, is not actually confusing. I think it makes sense.
There just has to be a backlash against the drive-by media. Mikhail Gorbachev, Lenin, Stalin never got this kind of coverage from their media. And they owned it. And they dictated to it.
The story is the drive-by media turning on its favorite maverick, trying to take him out. I'll tell you, it's one thing to deal with the liberalism of the drive-bys, but their stupidity is what's really frustrating. The point is, the drive-bys, they don't just sit around and report. They're not just biased, and they're not just liberals. They are trying to influence the outcome of events in ways, of course, in which they choose. The drive-by media has cast aside any pretense at objectivity. They have taken up with the Democrat Party, and they are both going to go down.
Go down. The drive-by media is not just reporting the story. The drive-by media is influencing events. Thank God Almighty you've made your way to the safety of this show. We're not the drive-by media. The message implicitly is that Rush Limbaugh is speaking to you, for you. Rush Limbaugh understands the world. Rush Limbaugh understands you. You may think there's no one left to trust in all the world. You certainly can't trust anybody else in the media. But you can trust Rush Limbaugh because he's onto him. This is a very specific formula that has made conservative media successful for a quarter century now. It is locking up your audience in a way that excludes their participation in any other form of media. It's an implicit message. It's pervasive in right-wing media. It's complete. You cannot trust anyone else. Trust me. Trust us. Don't touch that dial. Rush Limbaugh's audience is filled with people who swear off listening to the lamestream liberal drive-by media and instead give themselves over wholly to him. His audience calls themselves ditto heads, right? Because listening to him, belonging to him is part of who they are. Fox News took the Rush Limbaugh formula and adapted it for television in 1996. The Fox News slogan of fair and balanced, when what they're mostly doing is right-wing commentary, has always seemed to the rest of the world like an affront. Fair and balanced? It's like a mockery of the terms fair and balanced. But to the Fox audience, it is really the core of what they are offering. You cannot trust anyone else to talk to you. Everyone else is out to get you. Ask somebody who is a Fox News aficionado what they think about the fair and balanced slogan. You will hear them use it without irony and with criticism because they believe that the only place they can get fairness and balance is from Fox, that the rest of the media is biased and only Fox is the truth. They are selling their audience grievance, resentment, and belonging. And it's really effective. The success of that formula in far-right media made it inevitable, I believe, that we would get this weekend's spectacle of a presidential hopeful overtly proclaiming avoidance of the lamestream media as a central part of her political platform. It has seemed inevitable enough, in fact, that I predicted a few weeks ago that this would happen. I predict that there will be a candidate from the right side of the Republican Party. It may be Sarah Palin, somebody else, but they will establish a new litmus test for Republican candidates, which is that they do not do mainstream media interviews. That doing a mainstream media interview is itself a capitulation that only conservative media should be engaged with,
meaning
even
Fox
by the nominee.
and Limbaugh radio.
That's right.
Well, if I'm on a GOP bus, that is a depressing prediction.
Good news is I'm always wrong. Okay, so this time, not wrong. Here. By the way, I don't exactly know why we're showing this picture, except to say that one of our producers was out on the street in New York when Donald Trump and Sarah Palin were seen out on the street. I wish I could say that it was an accident or dumb luck when I said that somebody would start running for president, maybe Sarah Palin, by saying that she would run for president by not speaking to the mainstream media. But I think this is the Rush Limbaugh Fox News model of running against the media to maximize your adherence. I think when we stopped being able to tell politicians from celebrities on the right, the I won't talk to reporters presidential campaign, however far-fetched it seems, was probably inevitable. Joining us now is a combatant in the media wars in America, one who probably causes the conservative media more agita than anyone else in the entire country. He is David Brock, founder of the media watchdog group Media Matters and author of the New York Times bestseller Blinded by the Right. David Brock, thanks very much for your time. It's nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me on, Rachel.
Let me ask, first of all, your reaction just to that thesis that I laid out, that part of the reason that conservative media succeeds commercially to the extent that it does is that they get their audiences to listen only to them to the exclusion of all other competitors.
I think that's right, and I think that you could take it even further, that there was a strategy in place by the conservative movement that goes back 20 years before Rush Limbaugh with the founding of an organization like Accuracy in Media that was designed to stigmatize the press as liberal, to tell the conservative base that they couldn't trust a publication like the New York Times. So by the time Rush Limbaugh came into syndication 20 years later, what you had was a press that had abandoned the notion of objectivity and went with what the right was demanding, which was balance, which allowed the Flat Earth Society into the conversation. So one, they achieved balance. And two, I think on their alternative media, they built up a very powerful alternative media, starting really with Rush Limbaugh in 1988. And I think what they were able to do there were two different things. One, allow conservatives to dismiss news stories they don't like. And two, as you said, it's been a brilliant marketing strategy that you can't trust the New York Times, so you have to come here for your alternative news source. It's the only place you can get real information. Now, unfortunately, it ends up often being misinformation.
Why can a politician on the right say they will not talk to the press while running for president, even while a politician on the left could not? Certainly, we've all heard criticism of the corporate media from the left as well. Certainly, there have been efforts on the left to build alternative media institutions, even sometimes making the claim that you can't trust the mainstream media and you have to come here. Why has the right been so much more successful with it?
Well, I think that, first of all, they've been organized around this, as I said, since the late 1960s. And so, you know, the anti-press strategies date back to Richard Nixon and to the Bushes. And so what Sarah Palin is doing here is taking it a step further, and I think she's succeeding, partly on the basis that she has the relationship she has with Fox News. Which is an unusual one for a presidential candidate, and one that she's hide-behinding, I believe.
What do you think about the different levels of interaction that the Republican presidential candidates at this point have with Fox News? We've seen Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum lose their gigs there. We've seen Sarah Palin not lose her gig there. We have seen Herman Cain, who is not paid as a contributor but makes frequent appearances there, get mistakenly billed in the press as if he is a paid contributor. What do you think the interaction is between the Republican nominating process and the Fox News payroll right now?
Well, one, I think if Roger Ailes was trying to field an A-list of Republican candidates and sign them up, he's clearly failed. Two, as you noted, Gingrich and Santorum were subject to one kind of standard when they announced that they were exploring this race. And it's a question of whether Sarah Palin is coming close to that or not. But I honestly, Rachel, don't think that they really take all these rules seriously. You have Karl Rove on the Fox News channel, and Karl Rove is running the most important and the biggest political enterprise in the right wing right now, and he is still on their payroll.
In terms of the overall general election politics of the 2012 presidential election, it seems to me to be a smart move for all the reasons I explained in the introduction during the Republican primaries to say, as a matter of principle, I refuse to speak to mainstream media outlets. I refuse to speak to anybody other than Fox and talk radio and conservative internet outlets. That seems to me smart for the Republican primaries. How does that change when we get past the primaries and into the general?
Well, that depends on whether Sarah Palin actually makes it. Now, the other Republican presidential candidates are not adopting as clear-cut refusal to engage with the mainstream media. Now, if Sarah Palin were the nominee, I don't think it would change. We see that what she went through the last time and how poorly she was handling her mainstream media interviews, and so this works for her, and it works with the conservative base. And as we've seen, the conservative base is the only folks she's interested in talking to, and they've been inculcated into this notion that the media to some extent is a stand-in here, Rachel, for all political elites. And so she's able to position herself with her politics of grievance and resentment against the press, which is in some way a stand-in for all political elites in her ideology.
David Brock, founder of Media Matters and author of Blinded by the Right. David, thanks very much for your time tonight. It's nice to have you here on the show. I'm still hoping that at some point in my life, it will come true what was once suggested to me by certain someone, that maybe Sarah Palin could do an interview with me here on the show and we could simulcast it on Fox. I would be down with that. We'll be right back.